Welcome to Berlin, Germany for round 1 of the LEC Spring Split Playoffs. It starts here for our 6 playoff teams, where all eyes are set on taking the first League of Legends European Championship title. Hello everyone, I'm Shoxius, and taking over the show with me today is Folius and Detective the VODS. Hello there, dear Shoxius. It is a pleasure to be here on this fine day. And it is a pleasure to have you, Detective. Now, later today, we will have Vitality and Fnatic squaring up in round 1 of the LEC Spring Playoffs. But first, in the last half of the split, we've seen surprising changes in the performances of many of our teams in the LEC. We put our best sleuth on the case, and here to present his findings is Detective the VODS. Well, naturally you would put a detective to solve these simple mysteries, Shoxius. First, we must look at Misfits. They failed to qualify for the LEC playoffs, and you might be wondering why. Well, I delved into the mystery and I found that the answer was quite simple. It was not a matter of a lack of skill. It was not a matter of a lack of talent. It was simply a matter of Moose, in fact, being an alien and stealing all of the powers from Misfits squad. I honestly can't believe that no one saw it sooner. Anyway, up next is Fnatic. Isn't it rather odd that in the second half of the split they just started winning? This resurgence just suddenly came out of nowhere. You might be thinking, ooh, they found synergy. They found the teamwork that they needed in order to find success. And that is why you're not a detective. The real answer is Basil Fnatic tea. They put it in their drinks and suddenly they feel revitalized. They feel refreshed. It is exactly what they need to find those wins and find that success. And honestly, it tastes rather lovely. You should give it a try. Anyway, up next we have G2, our final mystery of the day. You may be wondering why they've been floundering in the second half of the split. And the honest answer is, it is not Mickey's wrist issues, it's Medic. The dastardly caster has plagued them with some kind of curse that allows them to not play properly when they're on stage. It's ridiculous, and have you looked at his face? It looks awfully similar to my dear Dr. Medius, who for some reason isn't here. I'm sorry, I can't do this. This just feels entirely foreign and improper. I cannot get through my findings without my dear Dr. Medius. I take my leave for a moment. Medius! Medius, where are you? Medius! Come to me, my friend! Alrighty then, well, we'll see more of G2 and Fnatic in the coming weeks in their battle for the crown. But this isn't the only title that is up for grabs. Throughout the week, we've been tabulating votes submitted by LEC organizations and partners to determine who will be LEC's first MVP. For a special edition of Medic's Playoff Checkup, we sent it to Flexius to break down the MVP frontrunners. Thank you, Shoxius, and hello, my people. It's your boy, Flexius. Woo! I'm back, and I'm here to talk about some MVP stuff. Now, when it came to calculating and tabulating and mathematicating who the MVP was going to be, I left that stuff to the nerds. I took quick shots, quick stats, and I fluxed on it. Woo! Now, it's clear to me that when it comes down to who takes the MVP title, there's only one scale that matters. Who flexed and who got flexed on. Now, it was a tight race with Medic and Brax's biceps being neck and neck. But in the end, there was only one MVP, the most valuable flexer. Who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be? It's me! Of course it's me! Woo! Who else can it be than the original OG Flex King? I wanna thank Medi! I wanna thank Vidi! The original duo that helped me be the best flexer in the business! Woo! Thank you. Now, to my main man in the kitchen who flexes on every diet plan, Chefius, flex on them stuff.
Thank you very much. Yes, we're here in my kitchen, Chef Yes's kitchen, and because we're on a special edition of VODS Check, we're going to be looking at a special build today. Now, we're going to go into my cooking device here, and we're going to bring out something that I've prepared just for VODS. As you'll see, this is a Nocturne mid lane build, filled with the build completely. The champion is ready, but it's not quite a perfect meal yet. In order to have the perfect Nocturne mid lane, you need the appropriate dressing. So what we're going to do is we're going to very lightly put the Nocturne mid lane, here we are, grab him nice and soft, put him on, bang, and there you go. The wonderful Nocturne in the mid lane. It's the build, it's the one you need, full of lethality. Get that extra greenery in there, hide in the shrubbery, and you're ready to get a lot of kills. That's going to be it here. Back to you at the analyst zone.
Thank you, Sheffius, for that great insight into Nocturne mid. Now, as you can see, my analyst desk has fallen apart just a bit. So while I wrangle my team back together and find another cue card, over on Lolesports, you'll have a chance to watch our newest episode of Behind the Streamius. Here's an exclusive sneak peek.
Hey everyone, I'd really like your attention for a real quick minute. I just want to pitch a new idea. I put a lot of thought and effort into it, and I think it's gonna revolutionize RDY. It's called VODS.
That's just bad.
It's just really like narcissistic.
It's actually terrible. It's already super convoluted in this VODS cinematic
Maybe
universe.
it could work for Countdown, but...
Countdown.
Mark Z would definitely count. This is honestly the worst thing I've ever heard.
Look, it might be a few days early, but happy April Fools, everybody, body. Anyways, nevertheless, it starts here. The 2019 LEC Spring Playoffs, where the top 6 teams from the regular season compete for the championship. Before we get to the games, we need to remind everybody of how the teams got to playoffs and who did not. It starts with Rogue and XL dropping out of contention earlier than the rest, and then we turn our attention to the super team Misfits. They failed to show a consistent level of play, and their star-studded roster simply wasn't able to adapt to the competition. A similar story, but maybe an even more depressing one, was that of Schalke 04. Our 2018 Summer Split finalists made it all the way to a tiebreaker game for the final spot in the postseason. But unfortunately, they crumbled and ended another split without a playoff berth. The thing is, though, it wasn't all sad stories. World representatives Vitality put together enough wins to show that they are contenders. However, they lacked the consistency to be considered a top 3 team. Vitality step into the playoffs as something to prove to you guys, the fans, as well as to themselves. The former champions G2 Esports made the biggest roster moves of the preseason. They secured caps in the mid lane, they had Perks roll swap to the bot lane, and this powerhouse of European talent locked in the first seed and a guaranteed seat at Rotterdam. But they need to shake off the losses from the second half of the split and return to their earlier form to truly take the title back. As we ramped up the pressure towards playoffs, our second seed from the regular season, Origin, made it clear that their sights are set on winning. Adaptive playstyles, consistent performances, solid teamwork, it is what defines this squad. They will be facing off against G2 Esports next weekend in round 2 of the playoffs, and they are also guaranteed to attend Rotterdam. The Fnatic faithful have been rewarded after it looked like this term was going to crash and burn. Fnatic started the season going 1-5, and just when you thought that they were done, they turned it all around. They're entering the playoffs on an 8-game winning streak. They are the statistical best team in the second half of the split, and they are the back-to-back defending champions. The question on everybody's mind is, can they run the gauntlet and win yet another European Championship? It starts here as Fnatic take on Vitality in the first match of the LEC playoffs. And it's important to remind everybody that the LEC playoff format is different from previous years.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the LEC. Now, we've made a few changes to our format, and it's pretty straightforward. So without further ado, let's take a look. During the regular season, our 10 teams will compete against each other in a double round robin best-of-1 format over 9 weeks. Now it's time for the playoffs. Each match will be played in a best-of-5. To start off, in round 1, teams ranked 3 to 6 will face off, but with a catch. Team number 3 will have a choice of playing team number 5 or team number 6. For this video's sake, let's say they choose team number 5, which means that team number 4 will play against team number 6. In round 2, not only do we get the winners from the previous week fighting it out, but also get to see 2 juggernauts in team number 1 taking on team number 2. Now it's on to round 3, with the winner of the juggernauts moving directly into the finals. On Saturday, April 13th, the loser of match 4 will play the winner of match 3, And on Sunday, we've got the cream of the crop playing against one another for a winner-take-all. We hope you like the new playoffs format. Thanks for watching.
Well, that was a good breakdown of the new playoff format. My name is EpicSkillshot supporter here with Andrew VODS, and our special guest for the next 2 days, Martin the Fishio, Lunga. The band's back together. I'm actually very, very happy that you both are opening up the playoffs here.
I'm happy we have like 10 different kinds of Vedis. I'm not even sure which one it is.
It's the OG, my friend.
That's the OG
one. We
one.
worked together all of last year. The original Prediction King.
That's true. I leave for one split and Twitter wins the prediction game.
I don't know what's going on.
I'm disappointed.
We need you back. You need to take over. Also, I'm just, I can't stand that Shoxy has looked better in that dress. But we're going to move on, and we're going to focus on the playoffs, because as we saw, of course, we have a new format, and every series is a best of 5. Now, G2 and OG, which will make the Fishu very happy, they're both locked in the Rotterdam, because even if you lose that match, which you probably will, you could still end up and be in the final in Rotterdam if you get that rematch.
Listen, a week before the regular season ended, I hated this format because I wasn't sure if we were going to get second place and guarantee that winner's match where we can again get 2 chances to go into the final. Now I absolutely love the format. But it is actually very exciting. I love the fact that we get that first test with G2. Maybe they get a game, who knows?
Maybe.
And then we can take them on in the final again.
Yeah, so we start with the round 1 today. That will be Fnatic versus Vitality, and then SK versus Splice tomorrow. But also important to note is that in Rotterdam, now we know already that G2 and OG are going to be there. On Saturday, we'll have the semifinal, and on Sunday, we'll have the final. And if you want tickets, you can get them at eu.lolesports.com/Rotterdam. Now, the teams are, of course, fighting for the first ever LEC title, and we wanted to discuss which were the teams that looked the strongest going into the playoffs. And I do want to start with the reigning champions, because I feel like sometimes during the split, because they started so awfully, I forgot that they were the reigning champions. But that's not the case. They are here to defend their title, Fnatic, and after a horrible start, they completely turned it around. What happened?
They certainly have. One of the biggest things was that they shaped up their early game. We saw Broxah having a much effective time in terms of setting up advantages for his team at the start of the game, along with just individuals performing better. Reckless and Hylissang seem to have a lot more trust within each other, and Bwipo, he's a little bit more consistent in the top side of the map, and Nemesis finding his form. So I feel like that the whole team had a lot more faith in each other. They found a way in order to play the game that worked for everyone, and because of the individual talent they have, they're finding a lot of success.
Yeah, I think the fact that they realized you don't have to play all kinds of crazy stuff. If you're a Fnatic to win games, you can actually keep it really, really simple and focus on either your super strong bot lane with Reckless and Hylissang, or actually Bwipo being very strong on certain carries in the top lane. Once they figured out, let's pick for early game, let's keep it simple with our drafts. Nemesis is not Caps. He doesn't need to play like Caps. He doesn't need to be the crazy guy who can win you the game alone. You can actually play more as a team. They started looking a lot better. And I'm pretty sad that right behind me, it actually started at week 6.
With OG?
Where they completely destroyed us after winning the bot lane very, very hard. And that kind of started the entire snowball for Fnatic.
Basically, you guys are to thank for the fact that Fnatic is on a roll.
I guess we can take credit for that.
Yeah, great stuff. Now, another team we got to talk about is G2 Esports. Now, we know they've struggled in the last couple of weeks, but we also know that that was because Mickey X wasn't feeling too well. Now, I do want to put your attention on these stats. The fact that in the last weeks, Fnatic has been better in the early game, and not a lot. No, a lot. That's what I meant, actually. But much better than G2 in the early game, to the point that they would probably crush them if they met now. But the big question is, what G2 are we going to see?
Well, I mean, we look back at the last time they played, and that's exactly what happened, Shox. The early game was just entirely Fnatic favored. And I think G2 had a lot of strengths for the majority of the split, in the sense of they had flex picks across the board. They could guarantee strong matchups literally whenever and wherever they wanted. And individually, they just couldn't be competed with. But one of the big things is, as the split progressed, I think teams got better, drafts improved, the number of flex picks got limited, and there was, of course, the issue with Mickey in the bot lane.
Yeah, and that's kind of the scary thing now, because it feels a little bit like a trap with this whole G2 now weaker in the second half. Because again, they were very vocal about not practicing as much. Obviously, Mickey having to step back, Promiscu coming in. We don't know who's actually playing next week against us. So it makes it hard to predict what team are you actually facing? Will it be the team where Perks and Mickey as a dual lane are actually doing really well early? Or will it be the team where you can see that Perks and Promiscue are kind of lacking some synergy and it could suddenly be a lot easier to play against the bot lane?
Well, if you then look at Origin, then maybe you're very happy because you beat them in the split when they weren't dealing with the issues, right? They were doing quite well.
True, yeah. I think the game we had against them where we got the Z pick for Nuke Dog and it was like a really smart draft, probably surprised them a little bit, and we managed to get some early kills around the mid lane to actually snowball. Showed that you can, of course, beat G2 even in the start of the split when they were so good. I just think a lot of it's gonna come down to the drafting. Obviously, you can't risk ending up in a situation where they get counter pick in multiple lanes due to flex picks with Wonder, Caps, these kind of players. They will just take over the game. But if you can actually get an advantage there, suddenly G2 are more human.
And sell Origin to me. Come on, tell me. Why are they the best team coming into playoffs?
I mean, I'm just excited to see us in a best of 5.
Yeah.
I think we have insanely smart players. We have a super smart coach as well. So in between games, I think there can be a lot of really good adaptations. If we lose a game or if something goes wrong in a game, even if we manage to win it, we can then adjust and fix that for the next game. I think it's going to be a big strength. So I'm just excited to see this lineup play their first best of 5. And I'm happy it's against G2, bring it on.
And for me, what's really exciting is so many of these players having the opportunity to now be in this position. A big redemption arc for Mythy, Alfari, Cold, Patrick. Nuke Deck, he was in the finals last bit, but failed to qualify for Worlds. A lot of big storylines on the lines for a lot of these players. And to beat G2 next week would definitely be a big thing for them.
Something quick you can think about. We'll get back to it later. 6 teams in playoffs. We only mentioned 3. I don't know. There must be some things we forget to talk about. Vitality's in there, Splice, SK, but I'll leave you to stew on it because first we are going to take a look at some specific players coming up in the playoffs. Quick shot. Who do you have your eye on?
Well, it's really tough to pick a few, and I think I'm going to intentionally ignore the obvious players like Caps, Reckless, Cobby, Nuke Duck. Everybody's already watching these guys, so I would like to shine a light on a few others. 3 in particular, starting with the All-Pro first-team top laner, CHK. This man has been destroying a top lane all split long, with top-tier carry performances like this Olaf taking on Rogue. CHK has gone toe-to-toe with some of the best players in the league, and he will need to deliver if he wants to help Vitality overcome Fnatic today. Now, tomorrow, the up-and-coming jungle superstar Selfmade. He's playing for SK Gaming and his first ever LEC playoffs. SK Gaming simply are not a winning team if Selfmade is not participating in the action. 81% kill participation at 15 minutes, the leader in the league. He is the most important single player that determines if a team will win or will lose, and he'll be the guy that I'm watching tomorrow up against Splice. Finally, the analyst has talked about a little bit, Mickey. He is widely regarded as the best support player in all of Europe. He earned more than double the points of the second All-Pro support Hillisang, and he is also nursing an injury. Mickey was subbed out of G2's Week 9 roster to rest, to recuperate, and he needs to come back in form if he wants to help Perks and G2 win the trophy that they lost to Fnatic. Remember that G2 esports take on Origin next weekend in the second round of playoffs. I can't wait to see all the teams leave everything out on the Rift, Sharks.
Yeah, I agree, of course, and that's why actually I asked the question before we went over to Quick Shot. It's so easy to talk about Fnatic, defending champions, G2 who crushed it, Origin because they have the Fischio, but there's 3 other teams in those playoffs. Are we forgetting to talk about that, or do you realistically think it is a 3-horse race?
So I think that when it comes to battling for the title, to me it feels very much like a 3-horse race. I think something that Deficio and I were talking a lot about earlier on before the show was that individually, I think a lot of the teams can't actually stack up to some of the top teams that we currently have, but also just in their teamwork, either a single member is shining that's helping carry them through, and that means that there's big weaknesses in the 5-man unit that can often be exploited.
Yeah, well, when you say dark horse, I think about Vitality more often than not, and Fnatic is up versus Vitality here in our very first match in best of 5, and this is what makes it so interesting. 2 very good stories. Fnatic, we've seen them lifting the trophy twice last year. Today or this year, it was more up and down, but they can be proud of what they achieved, and they will not want to lose that throne.
I mean, I think last year, every single European fan would always talk about Fnatic. They win both splits, they competed at MSI, they competed at Worlds, make it all the way to the final. Like, everything worked for Fnatic last year. So obviously when you have this start to the new split without caps and you start seeing them lose games, everyone gets really concerned all of a sudden. But I'm actually very happy that this team has managed to find a correct playstyle for them and are now bouncing back and looking like one of the favorites again, because this is Europe. We need Fnatic as a top team. Whenever Fnatic is a top team, we have some great players.
Yeah, but Vitality will want something to say about that. And when we look at their story of the whole year, 2018 was phenomenal for them. They came in, they had the rookies and the veterans. They just went up and up and up, ending at the elite, with the elite of Europe, I should say, at the end of the year. And then, of course, having an insane showing at Worlds. But what have we seen from them this year? It doesn't seem like it went straight up, for me at least.
No, I think that coming into the split, they were expected to be heavy favorites, right? They only changed a single member in Mowgli. Many consider that to be an upgrade. Former Freak of Freaks member, while they did qualify for Worlds, didn't have the best success, but still optimistic around their chances. And even Yamato was coming into the split saying, there's no reason why we shouldn't achieve more than what we did last year. It should be finals, guaranteed. And they started off the split very strong, but as the split progressed and the meta kind of shifted, it felt like Vitality started to struggle.
I also think there's more teams this split with better rosters, like stacked rosters where individually Vitality not getting the upper hand like they did maybe last year against a lot of the teams in Europe. So you're no longer winning games based on individual skill or just like pure aggression where you surprise people. Teams now know how you play and they can match your different players in all the different lanes. So Vitality kind of need to find something new that they can actually hold on to and use to win games against at least the best teams.
Would you say, do you think or do you suspect that that quality they had last year to sometimes beat the best in the world, like at Worlds, is that still there? And could that come out these playoffs?
It's a great question. I think if Vitality have used the 2 weeks to actually just practice one specific style and find a couple of picks that you're maybe not expecting in some different lanes, especially carry lanes, and use that to surprise someone like Fnatic, suddenly we can see them again actually show up big time. And yes, then they can compete against the best. But I need to see that spark. I need to see something new.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Of course, both teams, they changed merely one member coming into this year. But I think for Fnatic, it was quite a shocker to everyone that they lost Caps and then replaced him with Nemesis, a prodigy, of course, coming also from the Superliga. But he took a bit of time to get there, you know, and I almost feel like they wanted to plug and play him in, but they had to work very, very hard to get there.
They certainly did, and finding a style in which they could work around him was always going to take time. And one of the things that we heard from your why am I calling him Yamato Cannon? Youngbuck. Youngbuck is the word I'm looking for.
Youngbuck Cannon.
Yeah. We heard words from Youngbuck where he came into the split very overconfident. He felt like not much work needed to be done. But as the split progressed, he realized that they needed to change how they approach the game. They needed to train how they practice. And I feel like now they are much more of a cohesive unit. And we're seeing a return to form for many of those star players.
Yeah, and when it comes to those best of fives, of course, we can trust on both Yamato Cannon and Youngbuck to bring that whole bag of tricks and strategies. And for Fnatic, there's one specific strategy that could give them a flying start, and Medic's going to break it down for you.
Thank you very much, Shox. Now, before we go live in this best of five, I want to take a minute to talk about Fnatic's great second half to the split, and specifically about how they use creative level 1s to get an early game lead. So what's so good about Fnatic's level 1s? Well, let's go back to week 6, the last time Fnatic played against Vitality. Broxer is on Nocturne in the jungle, a jungler that relies on getting level 6 early. You can see Elise here tries to put the ward down. Vitality can smell something sneaky's coming in. Broxer clears it out with the Oracle's Lens and then comes into the jungle. Vitality are now split on 3 different fronts. Got Cabo in the top, Mowgli down here, and Jizuke forced down towards the mid lane as well. Fizz needs to get that mid lane experience up against the Zoe, otherwise he'll lose the lane too easily, and so Fnatic are able to steal away the red buff very, very simply. Usually, this would lead to vertical jungling. You'd split the map down the middle, Broxer would get the top half, and Mowgli would get the bottom half. But what happens in this case is Fnatic use the fact they have push in the mid lane with the Zoe, and the fact that Broxer can come down to this bottom side scuttle very quickly to make sure that they stop Mowgli getting onto the other side of the map. This means that Broxer gets 3 buffs instead of just the usual 2, and has a huge experience advantage over Mowgli. So what this also does is it makes Mowgli very easy to track in the early game. You know there are limited camps he can take in his jungle, and it means that even if you don't have vision on him, Fnatic can actually predict where Mowgli's going to be pretty easy. Well, I've shown you how it works, but why is this so important in the matchup? Vitality are a team that are known to rely on Mowgli and CHK to get them early game leads. If Boxer and Fnatic can consistently shut down the Vitality jungler like they did in Week 6, they can stop him from making any early game plays, not only by denying him experience and gold, but also by making him so easy to predict. By doing this, they actually eliminate one of the key win conditions for Vitality, and also they set their own early game up for success. Back to you, Shox.
Thank you very much. Indeed, yeah, we know about Fnatic. They love those level 1 strategies, but I also found it very interesting that Medic pointed out that they couldn't do that versus Vitality because Mowgli often does the same thing. And I know we were talking about this beforehand. He's a bit predictable at times when it comes to his pathing.
Yeah, and also just his playstyle is extremely focused on trying to find the enemy jungler and like invade him and see if you can duel him 1v1 while they try and have some push in mid and top lane. But I think in this specific game here, like the example we just showed, really shows how Fnatic have understood, okay, in our drafts, if we get especially a top lane we need to play around, let's try and cut the map in half. So when they invade that red buff and force Mowgli to bottom side, well, that means he can't gank Whippo in the early game on a Yorick. And if you do that to Mowgli, you actually really stop the way he likes to play the game. He can't go top for CHK, he can't invade topside jungle, and then he kind of doesn't know what to do, and he just kind of walks around the map a little bit waiting for something to happen.
Yeah, that could be super influential in this one. I feel like we're talking a lot about the positives of Fnatic. That is recency bias, but I think it's also justified because they went on that winning streak. But I do want to put the attention on Vitality again because we know they can do better than what we've seen from them in the second half. And I think we're always being lured into this fact that they're the underdogs when their ceiling is so incredibly high. What are kind of the things that they could pack out with coming into these playoffs?
Well, I think expectations are coming into this week that they will look to play around the top side of the map. I feel like CHK has been the best performing player on this roster. It feels like that this is the lane that Mowgli is used to playing around. And I just feel like that for Vitality, one of the best ways in which they can gain advantages and have reliably done so is to just set up the all-pro top laner from this split for success.
Yeah, and I think it starts in the draft. First of all, CHK plays so many different things. He was the guy who introduced Lucian top lane back in the day. Like, he's not afraid of pulling out these crazy counter picks. And if you're actually drafting for him with some flex picks where you might move it to jungle if it's a bad matchup for him, or you take a top to surprise someone like Whippo, who likes to overextend, who likes to play aggressive, you are suddenly finding an easy lane to gank. But I also think, if you look at Vitality as a team, while we can talk about the great things that CHK can do, I think this matchup is actually won by some of the weaker lanes who struggled a little bit the last few weeks, really stepping up. Bot lane, if you're picking a 50-50 matchup and you're trying to perma-gank top, then Jack Troll and Attila, they cannot make mistakes and fall behind. They have to hold their own against Reckless, Hylissang, probably Broxah, probably Nemesis as well. So it's not easy, but they need that bot lane to be stable if they're going to play heavy to top side.
And they then also need that top side to become Super Saiyan today.
Of course.
Is it a right way to TLDR that CHK can win you the game? He would never lose you the game. Whippo can win you the game, but he damn well also can lose you a game.
I think in the second half, Whippo has become a lot more consistent and that he's less likely to do that. But I definitely do agree that he has a point at which he likes to win his lane and he likes to play confidently. But I think that now he has a lot more trust in his teammates. That he shows a lot more respect to his opponents. And I hope coming today, he shows that respect to CHK.
But then there's the pride point. Now it's the playoffs. You know, he might say, listen, I know Reckless can carry this game because he's winning his bot lane. But CHK was voted the best top laner in Europe.
For a reason.
Let's see if we can beat him 1v1.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to give you guys at home also the choice because one of these top laners will be featured in our POV stream on twitch.tv/riotgames2. And you guys can choose which one. Spam in chat, CHK or Whippo. And then that's the person we will look at the POV stream for this entire best of 5. And now, le moment suprême, the predictions. Let's take a look. Let's see if we're surprised at all. All Fnatic, including the fans.
Still got an XX there, Deficio.
Yeah.
I put 3-0.
3-0.
Apparently we couldn't write that. It was like, no, we can't do
That's
this.
too harsh for Vitality.
You're voting the same as the fans. Perhaps you've lost your mojo and need to rely on help.
Or maybe my votes all split long has actually been the fan vote. And that's why the fan vote has been winning. 3-0 Fnatic.
Yeah, 3-0 Fnatic, very convincing. Why is it that the reigning champions aren't going to drop the ball here?
Well, I'm 3-1 for Fnatic personally, because I think the one thing about Vitality, something you've said before, they have a very high ceiling. And I think that in a best of 5, they have the ability to showcase it, and they can beat the best in the world. But that lack of consistency is what means that I don't think they're going to take a win against Fnatic.
Yeah, and because of that, I think this is going to be a super high best of 5 to kick the playoffs off with, to see where Vitality can go and to see if Fnatic, the reigning champions, can keep their winning streak going. We're kicking off the very first LEC playoffs with a bang as the 7-time champions go up against Vitality, a team looking to conquer the odds yet again.
I lived more in these 3 years than I lived in my entire life. My family, well, never agreed to anything like this. I just left my house to chase my dream. Probably the hardest decision in my life. If I fail, I don't have a home to go back to, or even if I had, I don't want to go back there.
My parents always had this idea on their minds. I want my son to be an engineer, I want my son to be a doctor. I basically ignoring every single one and did what I did best. Everybody turned their back on me, even my family. From there on, I just kept grinding and grinding against all odds. Here we are. If I dream of something, I just work hard to achieve it. If that fails, then I don't have anything else.
Joey came up to me and he told me, as his hand was broken, he can't play. You're playing semi-finals and finals. Felt like that opportunity was not something I worked for. So the way I got rid of that feeling was just by being cocky. I think I'm good enough at the game, and I'm going to play my game, and I'm going to show everyone that I am good enough.
By Hillesec, the damage hasn't come out yet. Edward, man, knockup, Fnatic!
My time in Elements was the worst period of my career, and I was really lucky to get a second chance in Fnatic again.
Only Reckless remains.
So Fnatic will take this win and deny playoffs from Elements and Reckless.
2015 was like a restart for me in my career because I didn't really have this safety anymore. I actually needed to step up and show that I was where I deserved to be.
If we actually managed to win against the team that went to World Finals, which is no match for the other teams.
Oh my! Just deliver it to him!
Walrus takes down upset, and Tilla does it! Picks up the kill!
Can Reckless do enough? No, a great wall of duet from the stun. Just to get lands in on 3 again, and they're just going to turn it around. The jump onto the back line, Fnatic get cleaned off the face of Summoners ripped by Vitality.
2019, it started off pretty grim. We all had high expectations. We ended up losing, got smashed by G2, lost to SK again.
Even if you only change one player, it's still a huge deal, and we didn't really, at least in my eyes, take it as one.
The biggest thing that changed is the trust. And then once the trust came, we became teammates.
Reckless the tower perks the first of all. Nemesis gets it. Oh, Cap's caught out.
Hello, Caps. Confidence to make that kind of a play.
Oh, Reckless dodged the petrifying gaze for perks. G2 are looking for the win. Can they pull it off? Oh, the Nexus. No way. No way. There's no flipping way you can do that to them.
Either we're here to win the whole thing, or we're not here at all.
When I saw that Fnatic picked us, they really didn't learn anything from World Finals. They just wanted to experience it again.
They play through top lane, and if the enemy top laner is good enough not to break, then Vitality can't win the game.
If we manage to take them out in the first round, we're just going through everything else.
Our entire lives are a story of the odds being against us. And we conquer those odds.
What a way to start the playoffs. LEC, and just two fantastic teams going toe-to-toe. A surging Fnatic, strongest team in the second half, up against Vitality, constantly touted as underdogs, but never to be underestimated. I'm Dan Dracos, bringing this series along with Christy Enterfryson and Indiana Frostgren Black. I mean, I know you're really right. You're both trying to stay really composed, but we are obviously jumping up and down a lot during that trailer. We're trying to be cool with it right now, but it's exciting. It's hype.
I mean, just listening to that, right? Watching the journeys that these players went through to get here from 2018 to 2019 and the regular season, both of these teams here have something to prove and want to move on.
And it's about grudge match. You know, the fact that Fnatic snap-grabbed Vitality before Schalke and SK was even over. Like, this is who we want to defeat. This is going to be easy. We talked to Whippo all day on EU4. The confidence is so high for Fnatic here.
And of course, speaking of Whippo, as we enter Champion Select, you guys did vote for Whippo to be featured in our POV stream. You can check that out over at twitch.tv/RiotGames2. And in Game 2, we'll have one of the mid laners, and you guys are going to get a chance to vote